The out-of-state investor strikes again. Hey guys, it's Brad from probateresource.com. Thanks for checking out this video. We're a real estate solutions company in Metro Atlanta. We specialize in the world of probate and inheritance properties, but we don't just buy in Metro Atlanta. We buy houses all over the state of Georgia. We even buy houses in other states. But today I want to talk about a topic that I've talked about multiple times, and I'm continue to hash this topic out because we see it happen all the time. And I was literally just recording another video and I got this text message. So it said, hey, I said, hey, I need to make another video about this. So we were working on a deal with a gentleman. We went out to see his house last week. It was early last week. We made him an offer on the house. He verbally accepted our offer, and then we sent him a contract. And then all of a sudden, when we send him the contract, he proceeds to say, oh, by the way, I'm already under contract with another company and they're not performing like they said they would. And we said, whoa, hold on a second, because I operate on an ethical basis. I have fantastic ethics. I would never want someone to do this to me. So we said, wait a second, you have a contract with someone else? Like, well, I'm not going to go under contract with you unless someone else and you're already selling it to someone else, because I wouldn't want someone to do that to me. So I said, send me the contract. Let me take a look at it. I'll just see what it looks like, and we'll go from there. So he sends me the contract over. First of all, I noticed it's not really a valid contract technically from a legal perspective, because in Georgia, you need to have a proper legal description, and the address and the tax parcel ID number is not a proper legal description. In Georgia, you need to have the actual legal description, which if you look it up, it's going to say beginning at point, blah, 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 da. It's going to be this really long paragraph that describes this particular property. So in this case, it didn't have a legal description. So technically speaking, it's not a valid contract, but that's arguable. And then I look at it, and basically I looked at it and I said, hey, according to this, you have one more day of due diligence. This was on Saturday when I reviewed this. The due diligence period was up yesterday. So today's Monday when I'm making this video. The due diligence period was up yesterday for this particular investor. This investor had made this guy an offer, which I thought was pretty high, honestly, especially this particular company is an out-of-state investment company. They're based out of another state, and they pretty much just wholesale properties, which means they're going to sell the property to another investor, and they just sort of collect a small fee and wholesale it. There's nothing wrong with wholesaling. It's totally legal. We wholesale properties sometimes. It's just another sort of tool in the toolbox. But this particular company, that's all they do. They just wholesale properties. They don't do anything else. I was looking at their offer and I'm like, well, how are they going to sell this to someone at the number? They're buying it at this number and they need to sell it for a little bit more than that. I don't see how any other, because I looked at it and ran the numbers and I was like, I don't see how those numbers even work. So we're looking at it, and I said, this doesn't make sense. And this actually happens a lot. These out-of-state wholesale companies sort of come into Metro Atlanta. You probably get text message marketing from them. You probably get cold called from them. That's sort of their primary means of marketing is through text messaging and cold calling. And they probably made you a sight unseen offer over the phone without ever coming out to your house. And then they probably asked to send some of their partners to the house and look through it. Really, those people are the ones they're trying to sell the house to. And anyways, those people came back and said, yeah, I can't pay that price for it. So a lot of what these companies do is they lock the price up high just because it sounds great to you. And then during the due diligence period, they're going to come back to you and they're going to ask you for a reduction in price. Why are they asking you for a reduction in price? Because what they did is once they got you under contract, then they went out and they advertised this to their sort of private network. They probably have a small network of investors, maybe a private email list, or sometimes it's in Facebook groups. They said, hey, I've got this property for sale. I want X amount of dollars for it. So in this case, they had the property under contract for like 150 something thousand. I think it was 155,000 or something. So they're advertising the property for sale for $165,000. Well, usually that's local investors here in the Atlanta market. So local investors are going to say, hey, yeah, I'm interested in seeing it. So they go out to the property, they go take a look at it, and they say, hey, Mr. Out-of-State wholesaler, like, I can't give you 165. I can give you $140,000 for it. And then what the wholesale company does is then they go back to the seller and they say, hey, Mr. Seller, I can't give you the 155 that I originally promised. We looked at this, the numbers just aren't going to work. I'm going to need to buy it from you for 130, right? And the other guy said he'd buy it for 140 or 145. I don't remember what I just said. But anyways, they're just going to drop it a little bit less and they're going to make a little bit of money in the middle. So this happens literally all the time. We see it happen all the time where they will lock you under contract at one number and then they'll come back and renegotiate you down once they've gotten offers from their potential investors. And then they'll say, okay, well, now I can make a little bit of money. They renegotiate you. They get you to agree to the price reduction. And then they sell it to their other guy for a little bit more money and everybody walks away from the deal. You might still close on the deal. They may still close as they agreed to close, but they're going to ask you for a price reduction. I think that's a little scummy. I consider that like bait and switch marketing. They're putting you under contract at a given price, knowing they're probably going to renegotiate later. I don't agree with that. We don't do that at our company. And I continually tell my employees, we do not do that. If at all possible, we are going to make you the most accurate offer up front. It may not always be the highest offer because, again, the other guy, his offer is not real. He's going to renegotiate you down, probably renegotiate you down lower than my offer would be. But unfortunately, we miss out on some deals because what happens is we make you the real honest offer up front of X amount of dollars. The other guy offers you more money. He comes back and renegotiates you. Sometimes they wait till like the day before closing. I think that's totally unethical, borderline criminal to do that, where they're already past the due diligence period, but they know that you're already ready to close on this deal and you agree to a price reduction the day before closing because you don't want the deal to fall apart. I think that's wrong. That's totally wrong. In my opinion, that's unethical. That's borderline criminal. That's fraud. That's a different conversation for a different day. But we see this literally happen all the time. So what's happening now? Well, this particular seller really wants to do business with us, but they're already under contract with this other company. And what happened last night? The last day of due diligence, the due diligence was up last night, Sunday night. They came back and they asked him for a price reduction. They reduced the price down even lower. But the craziest part is the seller is like, no, I'm not accepting that price. But we offered the seller a little bit less money, just a few $1,000s less than what the other guy had dropped his price to. So isn't that wild that people do that? But the reality is there are people in the industry that do that a lot of times with these out-of-state investment companies. There are some good out-of-state investment companies out there that operate in other states that do this sort of virtual wholesaling model. But the majority of them sort of operate in this sort of gray area, and I don't agree with it, but that's just my opinion. So anyways, I've made other videos about this. I wanted to make another video today, and I'm going to continually talk about this topic and just make sure that you understand who you're doing business with. And if you get that other offer and it sounds really good on paper, and just understand that, this particular contract had a 10-day due diligence. They came back at the 11th hour of the 10th day and said, hey, we need a price reduction. And that's typically what they do. They wait till the very last minute of due diligence and ask you for a price reduction. And if you agree not to do the price reduction, then they just terminate the contract. And in most cases, they're actually going to terminate unless you give them a reduction. Now, that's not to say, I'm going to be totally upfront and honest here, I have had to renegotiate some contracts. There have been a few where we've renegotiated them. We've missed something. Usually it's because we missed something in our inspection. We send one of our employees out to do an inspection on the house, and maybe we missed. For instance, there was one instance we had to sort of do it last minute at the closing table, and I actually kind of split the difference with the seller. And the reason this happened is because and actually, we talk about it in one of the testimonial videos. If you go back and look at our testimonial videos, there was actually mentioned in one of those where the house was full of stuff. I mean, his dad inherited this house. His dad was a hoarder. And in the basement was packed full of stuff. We put in our contract. Well, anyways, right before closing, we ended up getting the house cleaned out of some of the junk. And there was a huge crack in the basement wall in the basement. I mean, the wall was bowed in like a good probably 3 or 4 inches. And I mean, you could stick 2 fingers in this crack in the wall. It was pretty large. There was a pretty big compromised foundation issue. And I went to the seller and I said, hey man, I hate to ask you for this, but like, this is going to be probably a $10,000 to $15,000 repair. And me just being the person I am, I said, how about, can you give me a $5,000 price reduction? I'll split the difference with you. Right. And he agreed to that. And really, because we sent him pictures and we said, we didn't even see it before. We went through the house. There was so much stuff in this basement. We couldn't see this giant crack in the walls because there was stuff just piled in front of it. That happens from time to time. But again, he could have said no, and I would have said, okay, so be it. I'm out of due diligence. I can't technically ask you for that anymore. But he agreed to it. We mutually agreed, and that was okay. But I did, I asked him for it, but he doesn't necessarily have to give it to me. He could have told me to pound sand, and I would have said, you know what, you're right. You told me to pound sand, and you're right. I need to pound sand, and I need to do what I say I'm going to do because that's the right thing to do, right? So anyways, I hope this video helps you out a little bit, sort of opens your eyes as to what some of these out-of-state investor tactics will do when they're trying to buy your house. They're going to lock you in at this price and then drop you down below. So if there is still a due diligence period left in your contract, just be aware they could still come back and ask you for a price reduction. So don't think this property sold at 150 if there's still due diligence left, because again, a lot of them will wait till the 11th hour of the due diligence period to renegotiate you. So thanks again, guys. Appreciate you watching this video. If you do have a house that you've inherited, probate or inheritance, or even if you didn't inherit it and you want to sell this house, I've been in this business for a number of years. I've done tons and tons of deals, very experienced. We're an honest company here at Arborview Properties, or we're also probateresource.com, Georgia Probate Resource. We specialize in probate and inheritance properties. So if you want to sell the property, you can click on the link below in the description. It'll take you to our website. You can fill out the form, and a member of our team will be with you as soon as possible, or you can just pick up the phone and call us. The number's on our website, or we'll pop the number on the screen here. So thanks again for your time. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.